Joining us now is contributing writer at The Atlantic and a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, Shadi Hamid. His new article out this week is titled America Without God, in which he writes in part, as Christianity's hold in particular has weakened, ideological intensity and fragmentation have risen. American faith, it turns out, is as fervent as ever. It's just that what was once religious belief has now been channeled into political belief.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us. You know, this is such an important article. And what's interesting is, as a Baptist, as a conservative, as a guy from the Deep South, I heard growing up that liberals, government was so important to liberals because many of them didn't have a faith in God. So they, in effect, worshiped these secular institutions and worshiped winning political campaigns because that was all they had. And so here we are 5 years after Trump emerged on the scene, 6 years after Trump emerged on the scene, and these same people that criticize liberals, as Beth Moore has said, have decided to embrace a Christian nationalism and idolize a demagogue and put that over a lifetime of values. It is remarkable how much has changed in 5 or 6 years.
And that's why I think one of the main lessons here is be careful what you wish for. I mean, secularists have been saying for a long time that if America becomes less religious, we'll become more rational and more reasonable and sensible. But that actually hasn't been the case. And we see this across the political spectrum. Younger Republicans aren't as religious as the older generation. And ideological fervor has intensified, and we've become more divided as a result. That said, we're still a nation of believers, but you know, as I say in the piece, religious belief is now being channeled into other things, and other ideologies are filling the vacuum. One of those ideologies is this weird fusion of Trumpism and Christian nationalism. But also on my side of the spectrum, which is more on the left, we see wokeism rising. And if we were more like Europe, we'd be able to maybe fall back on shared ethnicity or long history. But the American idea isn't based, it's not a normal nation. We are based on a creed and a founding ideology. And that's why we'll probably stay a nation of believers for some time to come. But without having a common Christian culture or Christianity to temper that that fervor, we find ourselves in a difficult place. And I should also say, like, I'm not a Christian, I'm a Muslim. But even I'm someone who does recognize that having some kind of common Christian culture can be a productive thing, because at least with religion, you can postpone judgment until the next life. There's forgiveness, grace, and mercy. But when we're talking about Trumpism or wokeism on the left, it's our fellow Americans who are judging us and trying to punish us in this life. There is no postponement of judgment, and that's why I think we're in a dangerous place in that regard.
And the judgment is immediate. Shadi, as you write in the piece, we were at about 70% church membership in America from mid-1930s to the late 90s. For a long time, it held steady, and then over the last 20 years, it's dropped below 50% in the United States, and all these other ideologies have filled that vacuum, as you said. So how do you account for the drop in church membership? What's happened over the last 20 years?
Well, so, I mean, what we have is the rise of the so-called nones, who are now about a quarter of the population. In other words, people who don't have traditional religion. They might be agnostics, atheists, more spiritual, but not really part of a church. And it's a secularization process that I think we as Americans thought we were immune to for a long time, and that only really, and that in Europe, we wouldn't necessarily follow that course, but it is coming to us in a pretty profound way. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. Secularization does tend to happen over time in highly industrialized societies. But for whatever reason, Christianity isn't as compelling to younger Americans as it once was. And it's not for me to really provide an answer to that question. I think it maybe deserves some inward-looking reflection on the part of Christian leaders. There's a role of Christian elites who have maybe moved more in a political direction, as Joe mentioned, that's turned off more and more Americans from religion, and it's not filling the gap that it once did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you out there.
Thank you as always.
Thanks to at home.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for letting us into your homes during these extraordinary times.